Okay, welcome to the 15th NSTHA Global Ask the Chief Forum. As usual, we're going to start out, I'm going to give you a bump. This one's going to take a little bit more time because there's a lot of things changing in the atmosphere. And you might be feeling it a bit. So I'm just going to give you a bump that's really about balancing your energy. So, everyone, hands about shoulders apart. And I'm seeing that energy. And for now, let me know if you're not feeling it. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to bump it up. All right. Anyone not feeling that increase, let me know. Okay. Very good. All right. Now we're going to do our containment. And containing our tech, our space, the forum in general. Starting now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to push energy through your spaces so you can push everything out of your spaces. Starting now. Okay. Now I think I might want to say to verify whether we got everything's clear, because the last few forums we've had some interference. We usually have some kind of interference, but I want to just check this one just to make sure that we don't end up with something that's going to throw us off course. So, is it? Okay. I'm going to just get you can either sit or you can lay down on the table or whatever, and I'm just going to verify everyone's clear. Of course, I'm going to screen, the screen, and we already have some activity going on. Screen. And again. Let's see. All right, we do have something going on. All right, let's clear that out so we can get moving. We're gonna move on with it. They don't have much more to do, so. All right, everyone. Breath here.
Yeah. Just a reminder, when you look at internet sites, contain each one, and then contain what you're reading, and contain who wrote the site.
Yeah, this came through someone looking through the internet, and they got some stuff on them. So anyway, this is what they were saying. So with this particular forum, I think we started last month. Had to do with sayings or mantras. And that's what we're going to start with. Right? Okay. We decided to start with the mantra. What was the questions we had?
We can do
What do
that.
we have set up?
So we can do either or. So I'll just tell you the first question versus the first mantra.
Okay.
So for the first question, some people only become famous after they die. Are those people dense, or is density using them and tricking them into something? That's the first question. And alternatively, there is ignorance is bliss as a common saying.
Okay.
To you.
The first one's interesting, but I'm going to leave that one because it gets into it's no real just straight up answer to that question.
Yeah.
And, there's various reasons why things happen, why there's receive from individuals in a certain way. So same question, we'll just push it back a little bit.
Go to ignorance.
And ignorance is bliss.
Okay, we'll start there.
Well, ignorance is bliss is obviously a bogus saying, and I've heard that one for a good while too over the years. It's akin to someone sticking their head in the sand, and just, I don't want to deal with reality, what's going on in the world. And so actually the term was I shouldn't say it was really bogus. I think in some ways it was criticizing people who choose not to see what's going on around them. So at least that was one of the takes that I had when I first heard it. But then again, people use it in various ways. Someone would say, well, I just don't want to know. I'm fine not knowing. But the reality of the matter is that if you turn a blind eye to something that's coming in your direction, you're going to get hit anyway. So being aware of what's going on around you is always key. That way, if something's coming after you, you can take your basic measures and jump out of the way. You can do whatever you need to do. But there are a lot of people who really stick their heads in the sand. Something called willful ignorance. People who just choose to be ignorant. I don't want to know anything. It's too complicated. It makes me feel bad if I know the truth about certain things. And then when, the crap hits the fan, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. So all that to say is that this is bogus, but how I just said it, it's like it has some bearings, but also depending on how a person looks at it, it can be bogus. It's there is no bliss in ignorance. Ignorance is just ignorance, and in the end, you're gonna get hit by whatever's coming in your direction if you don't pay attention to what it is. So.
You said that even likes to do a lot of contradictions.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things with a lot of things too that Ms. A was reminding me that Yin likes contradictory phrases, so it can be taken one way or another, so that there's no cohesive understanding of anything. That's another form of divide and conquer. So one would think divide. It's always about dividing how people think. That's how divide and conquer works. Divides this group with that group and so on and so forth.
Choosing sides.
Yeah, just choosing sides. And anyway, we can move on to the next one.
Forgive and forget.
Oh, forgive and forget, and I probably talked about this some time ago. That whole concept of forgiveness is, is nonsense. I even have it written in the book that, as far as I'm concerned, it's just if you're supposed to be forgiving someone, it's literally giving someone who's dead another shot at you. If they didn't succeed at taking you down the last time you caught them, don't forgive them. Just remember that this person is kind of like a maniacal type of individual. Forgiving and forgetting, it doesn't even make any sense. Things lock into your memory banks anyway. You have it, and if you're saying that you're forgiving or you're forgetting, you're just ignoring or you're in denial about the reality that you do remember what that individual did to you, or what those individuals did to you. So again, that one.
You also said, Chief, that a lot of times when people forget, it's just that they're allowing it to just settle in this junk heap in their energy, and then you extract it during sessions or things like that.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about people forget certain things that happened. Yeah, sometimes it has to do with other individuals. Sometimes this has to do with some traumatic situation where I will pick up something on someone and their energy, and I'll say, did you ever injure, a limb or something like that? And they'll just won't remember anything about it. But it's had to do with some kind of trauma that was going on at the time, and they block it out. So it's like individuals, some children who have been sexually abused in their childhood, in order for them to move forward, they tend to block it out. Excuse me. A lot, of people still hang on to it, but there are those who block it out and they have no recollection of it. And generally, I won't just push. I'll just start to work on them and remove the things that are blocking memories in general, and then inevitably those memories will come to the surface. But as far as forgiving and forgetting, it's like willfully saying, I'll forget what you did. And sometimes it has to do with, long-term relationships or family members. When there's a family member that's done something to you. Now, when it comes to the concept of, the family unit or the family entities or whatever, depending on your relationship with them, you may still interact with them because you have other people in common at times. You may still interact with them, but I never forgive anything that anyone has done in the sense that I never forget. But it doesn't mean that I'm walking around with my brows furrowed every time I see them. It's just that I'm very much aware of what you're capable of. So that's where the forgive and forget thing is just nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Always, and to tell someone to always remember is kind of redundant. You will maybe try not to remember if you believe this nonsense about forgive and forget. Let's just move forward. People are always asking for forgiveness. If you remember, I mentioned it before, maybe a few times in the forums. People who tend to ask for forgiveness are people who are always screwing up in the first place. Now, if I do something to someone, I usually have a reason, and I don't go out beating people up or anything like that. But if I have to basically cut someone's legs out from under them because they're doing things to me, and they feel that I was very vicious about it, I don't care. Don't forgive me. Go away. I don't want you around me anyway. So, that's how it works with me. So, what we got?
Okay. We know that in church they always promote forgiveness, because and forgiveness, sometimes they want forgiveness from someone who is very dense or someone who they feel like has done, it's trying to connect to someone or trying to get over on someone. That's what you wrote in your book, like giving someone another chance to screw you over.
Yeah, but you're saying people who want forgiveness for someone who's very dense.
For example, in church they're taught to pray for people for them to have forgiveness from God, and then they're opening themselves up to this person who has a lot of density, and then opening themselves up to density in the form of what they think is God.
Yeah, well, that goes to another subject. But no, it's cool. We can run with it. Yeah, I guess they didn't like that.
Okay.
So anyway, but also when individuals are doing So we're going to go into prayer for a minute. When individuals are praying to someone, and individuals will say, well, I accept anyone's goodwill. You're not so sure if those individuals who are praying, if all of them have goodwill in mind. There's always feeders in the pack. So if someone's ill or whatever, or falling on hard times, there's always someone who's going to feed on that essence in that group of individuals saying they're praying for them. I have relatives who are, in religion and so on. And even my grandma, late grandma used to say, I'll pray for you. And I would say, please don't. I care about you, but don't pray for me, okay? Because I don't know what you're bringing in, and I don't believe in what you believe in. So if you believe in some mystical being that you've never met, but you have a lot of stress and trauma in your life, it tells me something that what you believe in isn't really working. So how I'm doing things seem to work for me. And if I'm hitting a little bit of a rough patch, I work through it myself. And when someone starts to pray, it's almost like they're introducing, and if I accept it, they're allowing them to introduce strangers into my space that I have no idea what they're about. So one of the things as far as also when you are someone who's has goodwill in your intent as far as praying for someone, you can also, depending on who you're praying for, maybe someone who's very, very dense. Got a lot of density around them, and they're looking for suckers. Pray for me, brother, pray for me, and then people do that. Oh, pray for me, and they're literally, can you feed my density? So I don't believe in all that praying stuff. People are used to following orders, just do, and don't really ask questions. And that's what that's about. So again, I'm moving a little fast, but that's okay. That's just the rhythm of my energy today.
Thank you.
Go to the next thing.
Can I ask a question before we go to the next one? Mimosa here. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question about the forgiveness, because lately I've been hearing like this saying, like, forgive yourself. Don't wait for someone else to apologize because you might never get it. Get over it. That one, and forgive yourself. Is it the same like forgiving someone else? Like, do we have to forgive ourselves for doing mistakes?
Well, again, forgiving is in the realm of loaded words. So if you have an example of what kind of things a person would want to forgive themselves for, just drinking too much one night or something like that, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, something like that, or just screwing up a relationship, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're feeling, so if it has to do with the relationship, has to do with maybe someone's convincing you that you're responsible, or maybe you're coming in with a bad attitude. And if you're coming in with a bad attitude, there's something else involved. So it's not really clear cut as to whether you should forgive yourself or whether you're being manipulated by something very, very dense or some attachment that's causing you to actually lock horns with this other individual. But then you don't even know if there's something with that other individual that's actually baiting you to actually respond to them that way. So when it comes to actually just drinking, it means that forgiving myself, usually we talk about forgiving someone else or something else. I don't need to forgive myself if I make a mistake. All I need to do is learn from the mistake.
Right.
Therefore, I won't have to forgive myself if I learn from the mistake. If I continue to do something, that means I got myself a good size attachment. Excuse me, they don't like what I'm saying. I have a good size attachment that's influencing me that I'm not aware of. But you will be aware of it if you know that, okay, last time I went out, I got blind drunk, ended up doing some weird stuff or some very, very dangerous things. And, if you go out again and you do it again, forgiving yourself isn't going to help anything. Like, become aware. I'm doing something really weird, but if you're involved in what I'm teaching, you realize that it's not just you if you're making those types of decisions. It's something, it's attachments, we call it C's, something else. Because you will go out and you say, well, last time I kind of screwed up. I'm going to pay attention this time. But then you decide maybe you shouldn't be drinking, literally, to tell you the truth. You know, some people say, well, that's my fun. Well, if that's what you want to do, go and do it, and you're going to screw up. And I don't give a darn how many times you forgive yourself. It's not going to help you if you keep doing the same thing over again. So later for forgiveness, learn from the mistake. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
You could tell that she was accepting what you were saying because I started coughing out.
Yeah, things that want to believe in that. Which, all of that has to do with feeding density. It's like, forgive yourself, go out and do it again. I don't have to do any work. I screwed up, forgive me. Say, really, why should I forgive you? Do you really understand? Oh, yeah, I understand what I did. I don't really feel it. So I'm not going to forgive you, but you made a mistake. Learn from your mistake, therefore you won't piss me off again.
You said, especially those who are on their Neo Shamanic journey, there are those who want to assist them, and sometimes clients will want to have relationships with those who are actually poisoning them. So those who are trying to assist them in their journey will try to block that person from being, close.
Yeah, there's times when, and I don't know how many, and most people have had some experience as an adult, where there's some individual, and you're saying maybe like some relationship, and it falls apart. But if you keep moving forward without thinking about, usually it's density that wants to pull you back and analyze. What could I have done to save this, so on and so forth. Perhaps that individual is someone who's not supposed to be around you anyway. And if you're doing on your Neo Shamanic journey, this person isn't, I can guarantee you, it's probably better that you're moving away from that individual than to try to reconnect with them. Because density wants you to jump through hoops for it. But the other person is going to jump through any hoops for you. It makes you think that you're responsible for, for all of the things that are, maybe not going so well. But because you're believing in some other fairy tales about relationships and so on and so forth, forgive and forget. There's a number of other ones that can't come to mind. Sorry, it's this one has a lot of stuff attached to it.
Sorry, just sit up.
Yeah, okay, sorry. 1 second. I don't know if this is, you can be candid if you want to, or not candid, as far as is there some specific relationship that you're thinking about?
Me? No, not really. No. I've been just hearing especially in the spiritual community, it's oh, forgive yourself for what you have done, and then you can move forward. Without forgiving yourself, you cannot move forward and all that stuff. So I was wondering if it's similar to forgiving someone else. Do we need to forgive ourselves or not? But there was not a particular relationship I was thinking of.
Okay, that's good. Well, yeah, some of the things that you have to do with certain groups and how they, their perception of things. Again, you can apply it in a certain way to other people other than yourself. But again, I don't forgive myself because I learned from my mistakes. And forgiving isn't going to work. It's just a word if I'm not doing the work. It's about even the concept of the word love, which is going to come up at some point in this, I believe, also, where someone used this loaded word love, and we keep looking up definitions, and the definitions are all over the place. So forgiveness is one of those too. One of the things about New Age, they love catchphrases. It's for the attention deficit, group that they started to create about 40 years ago with certain types of technology and so on and so forth, where attention spans are like this. So for those who have short attention span, here's a catchphrase for everything. So I don't forgive people for shit they do. Learn from your mistake, and if you want to be around me, prove to me, in other ways other than lip service, that you really, are really determined to heal that relationship. And when I work on you, you get more empathic, and you can generally feel. So that's another thing too. They want you to ignore the fact that you might be empathing the fact that this person may not be sincere. But the word is that I should forgive. And you go against your own best interest and forgive someone. And the number of stories of individuals who've been forgiven, and then next thing you know, same crap, new crap, relationship. A lot of times, you go, men with women, women with men, and so on and so forth, same-sex relationship, whatever. One partner is doing things and say, "Oh, forgive me, I didn't mean to," whatever. They say, "Okay, I forgive you. That's the righteous thing to do." And then they, you might as well just, if you tune into their mind or whatever the density that's on them, they're going to sucker. Because not long after, and I've been around enough to know this, they'll do it again because you're easily forgiving them. I have a lot of respect for myself. If someone's disrespecting me, you better prove to me that you're not going to do this shit again, and I still will have you at an arm's length for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean I'm going to be scolding you and browbeating you. I'll deal with you, but I will deal with you with caution because I know what you're capable of. So forgiveness, get rid of it. Has no place in your vocabulary.
Okay.
That's something? Yeah, I was going to say mimosa?
No, I just said, okay, I will do that.
I'm just gonna check this question, then I'll see it.
Okay. All right, it's okay.
Okay, so what someone was saying was that there's someone in Mimosa's life that wants her to forgive them. So they're pushing that intent, and that's why she brought it up.
That's why it's coming up?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I was feeling like a very male energy, and I was like, Mimosa, is it someone male? And she's like, no. And I'm like, shit.
But again, there's people who will focus on you. Again, that's why all the containment and everything. And even with your containment, someone can be following around you, even though they're not quite getting on you. But it's like what I call pigeons who'll be, hey, remember me? Hey. Or you'll all of a sudden someone's name or their face will pop up. They may not be right on your energy because you're containing, but it's like someone across the street like, hey, and trying to get your attention in a certain way.
Mm.
So it's
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I used to believe that if I had like an issue with a person or a bad relationship with a person, and I wanted to move forward, that I had to be not really forgiving that person, but that I had to be okay with what they did and not take it too personal, not let it come too close to me. But then over the time, I just learned, okay, they are who they are, and it has nothing to do with me and what they're doing. It's not my problem, and I'm still just gonna live my life. Like, they're not gonna change because they didn't show that they're going to change. So I'm just gonna accept how they are and then deal with them my way.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of doing it, but also you're struggling with what the system is saying to you. There's someone that say, be the bigger person. You've heard that term. Be the bigger.
Yeah.
And, which means be the bigger sucker. And as you said, you found, as I was saying earlier, that person is prone to behave that way. And then you find after a certain point, well, later I got my own life to move on with, later for this individual. But, when you're not sure about this whole concept of forgiving or being the bigger person, it kind of follows you around a little bit. So I'm here to just dash that. It's a bunch of bullshit. all this stuff that these guys are throwing out there, a lot of this new age shit, it is yin of yin. This is the matrix. Everything that you read and learn, except for me, is of the matrix. And how I prove myself is that you can feel and sense what I'm doing, and that I'm not setting you up for a fall. You don't feel drained out. I work on you and you feel really tired. Some people are really, really tired, but they wake up with a lot of energy. That's the difference between the work I do and some of these other practitioners of other things, including Reiki in particular. And my feelings about Reiki has been evolving over the years anyway into an understanding of how it really works. And they don't like what I'm saying. Because there's all these, I'm a Reiki worker, and who are you working for, Reiki worker?
There's a lot of Reiki workers that watch this farm to try to steal. And
Well, there's a lot of, so there's a lot of theft. I think I mentioned that when the so-called healing community, there's a lot of theft, people trying to steal techniques. Because in reality, they may not really believe that what they do can really permanently heal anyone. They may just be into it to make a living. Nothing wrong with people wanting to make a living, but, be aware. And I had used to mention some aspect of Reiki work in my bio, whatever, and I got rid of that stuff because of the origins of Reiki.
They feel what you do is real, so they want to try to steal.
Yeah, well, I've had individuals try to steal stuff because what I do is real. They can't do what I do. Or if they can't steal it, they try to goad me into thinking that they're doing this for my benefit. Just follow me in this direction. And I'm like, why am I following you when I've got the juice, baby? I'm going this direction. And I'll find out, no. I've had several individuals like that in the last 3 years. And none of them are around me anymore, mind you. Because it's all about them. Not about what I do, it's about them. So I kind of got, when you said that, I kind of got a little off of whatever. But anyway, we can, if something else comes up having to do with this, I'll come back to it, but we're going to just move forward. Okay, I don't know if Ms. A is able to, this is kind of rough one, and it's not so much have to do with all of you guys, it has to do with the time right now. As we're still having issues with loading things, loading forums, downloading forums, boosting forums, as though there's eyeballs on me for what I'm doing.
My body started convulsing. It's like empathy tapping into all these workers who want to steal. It has nothing to do.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who watch the forum, they watch what I'm doing, they're trying to figure out how to steal, and they haven't gotten it yet. Everything I do is sealed.
No!
Seal it for a reason.
They think they can break the seal.
Yeah, good luck with that. They'll break themselves before they can ever break my seal.
Shit.
So, anyway, let's move to something else. The next question.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. I mean, I don't really see anything really wrong with that saying. There was a saying, for me, some mistake caution with fear, but caution is different from fear. So better safe means being cautious. In other words, just making sure all the bolts are tightened, and and everything is in order before you go out on a journey. And make sure you have all your provisions and so on and so forth. So that's one that I don't see as a negative. And it's like, yeah, better safe than sorry. Yeah, I have no problem with that one. Moving on.
Time and money.
Time. Yeah, time is money. Yeah, that's one. And that's a real grim one. I had been there for a minute when I lived in New York City for a good number of years. And that city, pretty much like everything that's been set up in the Univian realm, runs on money, monetary. Everybody needs money. And Manhattan, like a lot of big cities, greed central. So, on one hand, I understand it as in the sense of doing business. I don't want anyone wasting my time when I was, in New York, because it's not, it wasn't cheap to live there, and it's even more expensive now. It wasn't cheap to live there. I had to pay my mortgages or my rent or whatever. So I couldn't allow myself to, be sidetracked by some nonsense or some pie in the sky ideas, which there's a scammer a minute, in places like that, especially in New York City. So, time is money. Yeah, it's a saying that pretty much locks you into a monetary mind, that everything is about money, when in reality, everything isn't about money. A lot of extremely unhappy individuals have a lot of cash. A lot of people who just spend all their time running after money, and then they get to a certain age. I had an accountant who was a good accountant. He just spent his whole life counting money and dealing with people's money. But it's not like he never got out from behind his desk. He was like big as a freaking house. But he was a really good accountant. But he spent all this time just money, 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 money. And I knew he had a lot of money, And then he ends up at a heart attack, boom, and he's gone. Now, maybe the idea was like, I leave it to my kids or something like that. But the reality of the matter, he didn't enjoy his life at all. Unless counting money was his enjoyment. But I didn't sense that because there's always a gray energy in that place. It's like he basically was turned into like a little robot or a little computer that all he did was count beans. So when it comes to time is money, I understand it business-wise, but I don't embrace it the way that I tried to embrace it before. I don't know what else to actually add to that. So, anyone have anything they want to ask or any thing they can want to take it in another direction, feel free. But if not, we're just going to move on to the next one.
The next one is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Oh, okay. You've heard the term eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And I think there's a follow-up saying to that. If people follow eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, everybody ends up blind and toothless. Well, the whole world would be blind and toothless or something like that. So, but they said, they said various ways. One that I heard was like everyone would be blind and toothless. So it's the whole concept of supporting the concept of revenge. And I'm not into the concept of revenge because what happens with revenge is like constantly pulling you back. So you got, burned or injured in some way. You're going to have to move forward anyway. Because you're going to have to still continue with your life. But it's kind of hard if you're carrying this weight of this person who I really want to get back at this person. I really want to get back at this person. But there's a saying that I heard some years ago where someone said the best revenge is doing well. So I believe in that one. Just keep moving forward and take care of yourself. And don't worry if that person knows that you're doing well or not, because they don't matter. They don't matter. They're just part of a feeding frenzy. So when people do things to you, they're after your essence anyway. And when you continue to put attention or hate on these individuals, you're just basically throwing more of your essence away. And you're feeding something. This guy or this person has successfully gotten you to throw your essence in their direction. So you're busy doing whatever you're doing with your life, and it's going well, but that person pops up in your head, and all of a sudden all that energy, that you're focusing in this direction, a certain amount of it goes backwards. So, you know, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Yeah, everyone ended up blind and toothless. Moving forward and doing well is the best revenge, because that's what it's about, revenge. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Okay? All right.
Thanks for continuing.
Yep, we're gonna continue.
Next one, that's karma.
Oh yeah, that's karma. It's like an excuse for everything. That one, I get it if you don't have any wherewithal about the things that I have a wherewithal about, things I talk to you about, how things might cause issues in your life, the attachments to things that are around you that might cause issues in your life, or other individuals with their attachments targeting you that might cause issues in your life. So, and I've had this question before, do I believe in karma? I said, no, I don't. I feel it's just a throwaway. It's an excuse to just accept. Some people are accepting my lot in life. I must have done something in another lifetime, and I'm paying for it. I can tell you for a fact, there are a lot of people who've done some really crappy stuff in their lives in the past, but because they sell their soul, they don't really pay for it. You know, they come back, and they go along there doing whatever, living on what they think is an okay life. I don't think it is, but they think it's fine. So if you believe in it, it becomes real. I don't believe in the karma business. So.
Right, and you said that yin or density gives you ideas for you to believe in it and you to give it energy and you to make it happen.
As far as the karma and whatever. Yeah, well, again, if you accept it, if you believe in the karma, you accept it, then anything that density brings in your way trips you up, you fall on your face. Oh, that's karma. I must have done something bad. You're believing in it, which means you're opening yourself up to all the negativity that's out there that wants to engage or wants to get in your way. I literally had a client once who I almost had to have, you know, I wasn't gonna have a fist fight with her, but my goodness, this is karma, this is my lot in life. And I said, why are you here? I thought you wanted me to help you with something, but she's sitting here telling me that her life sucks because of karma. And I said, no, it doesn't have to suck because of this concept of karma. I don't believe in it. And she got angry. Like, well, I want to believe it. I said, well, then believe it. Go away, believe it. I said, but keep in mind, you don't have to, you don't have to accept this. The person did call back a few years later, but then disappeared again because there's a part of it that doesn't want to hear the truth. And that's another thing also with a lot of folks. If there's something that's pulling you backwards, or certain people who said that they wanted to join the forum, and then when it gets close to it, something just tells them, oh, you don't need to. And they're used to that voice talking in their head when it's something else, and they won't watch the forum. Oh, what, more clients than them? Oh, well, that's some other, daydreams, fantasies some people have, where some have this illusion. I don't know if you've ever, there's like this old TV show called, these doctor shows in the 60s. It was like Dr. Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare and a bunch of middle-aged white housewives would sit there and just drool over Ben Casey or Kildare, and to the point where they're fantasizing that this guy, almost like they created this fantasy world. And there's a whole lot of, primarily women who do this, romance novels are very, very, key to that kind of mindset. They're fantasizing and they're living in this fantasy world. So I had some who I was Dr. Kildare or whatever. And so by going on to the forum, they would see that I have other people that I have as clients, and a lot of women who I have as clients, but they have some fantasy in their mind about interacting with the doctor on a romantic level or something like that. And so they didn't want to see, they didn't want their illusion to be dashed. So that's what Ms. A was talking about, anyway, with that. But I forgot what we were talking about before we got into that. But anyway, where are we going?
We were talking about that's karma, and then we were talking about getting on the forums, and then you were talking about this, the issue with the fantasy of romantic novels and how it poisons.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we kind of get drifting into
Flowing with it.
yeah, flowing with it. So we're just flowing, which tends to happen, anyway, during the forums. But I will maybe touch a little bit on the whole concept of romance novels. It's something that was introduced. What did we get? We got. It's like romance was like Roman, right?
Want me to go to that right now?
We can. We can jump into
Let's jump.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of these, there's a lot of sayings that have to do with love or romance. So all you need is love, the power of love. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. They're the love of my life. I'm looking for true love. It's all about love. But then when we looked up the meaning, the origins of the word love, you get, it's an old English word of Germanic origin. There's a lot of variations. So lufu, and then Indo-European root shared by Sanskrit, the word is like very difficult to say, lubiati or something like that, which means desires. Mm-hmm. And then the Latin word, which is libet, which is it is pleasing.
Libido, right?
And then libido, which is desire.
Right.
And then the old English word leaf, which is like pleasant or happily. Mm-hmm. But then we looked into when was the word love created. And it is in the same century as romance was created, in the 12th century. So in the word romance, they originated in Latin origin the word romanicus, and then the next word of the Roman style. And so there are a lot of things that...
Yeah. Okay, so in other words, so romance is the Roman style, but you were getting ready to talk about how Rome, the characteristics of Rome.
Well, you know what Rome is known for? One of those things would be gladiators, the Vatican, Colosseums, public crucifixion. And whenever I was in the Christian cult, they did like a class they did like a study about what crucifixion was like and how they would literally put the nail. There's a lot of different variations to crucifixion, which was created in Rome, but they would put the nail in the wrist so that it wouldn't split up right through the hand and then the person fall from the cross, and also so that excruciating pain would shoot down the body. And then also they would put nails in the feet, right where the ankles are, so that the pain would shoot up the legs. And then because of that, the body would want to come up to breathe or put their heads down to breathe, and then the body would convulse and shake. And a lot of times they would beat them half to death right before they even got to the cross, and then make them carry the cross. And then with their backs all beaten up, sometimes they would shove knives into their spine, and then they would shake back and forth and slam into the cross. So sometimes they had to secure their head to the cross and even put thorns on their heads, which you know. So how could a culture that is famous for the creation of these types of things be creating the word love or romance, which is supposed to be altruistic in any way? Want to muscle test that, Chief?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any altruistic intent in love or romance?
No. But again, a lot of times folks are using words that have a hidden meaning to it. You don't know the origins of it. And those words literally feed into density. We got a pretty active forum today, so.
There's a lot of people who buy into that.
And I think it's the amount of kicking has to do with the amount of people who buy into it, and those who have basically, more than invested themselves into this concept that they don't even understand. So that's one of the reasons there's so much, such a violent reaction to it, because there's, it's thrown around willy-nilly, and all of you who've ever been on the forums know that I call love a loaded word. Because a lot of times, one of the things we're going to ask about the term love, is it how often, what percentage of the time is it used in a negative way to manipulate others? And the number I come up with was like 70%. And these guys are fighting me. Hold on a second.
This is a major one that density gets essence from.
Well, they get a lot of essence from it. They do it in love stories and love songs, love, romance novels. The hopefulness, all these, folks who get to a certain point in their lives, and then they're hoping for this concept, this elusive thing called love. To the point where they just die. I didn't have love, and they say, do you even know what the hell it is? Ask, and I've said this before on other forums, define it for me. And it usually just some nonsensical, simple, kind of answers that don't mean anything. And also, the fact that it's used so much straight across the board. Density will come up big time and talk about love. Because they know they don't have to basically buy into, because it's so amorphous, they don't have to buy into anything that would really say, define what your actions are when you talk about love. People understand making love, okay, fine, whatever. But the concept, I love you, I love this, I love that, when it comes to food, things like that, or my house, you might as well say, I really like food, man, or I really like my house. But she said, I love my house, I love this, I love you. But again, 70% of the time it's used to manipulate people. 30% of the time people honestly think it means like, I really care about you, really deeply. 30% people think that it's about caring about someone deeply. Well, it kind of went down kind of slow. What's wrong?
How many times?
Less than that, maybe 10%? 10%.
The other 20 means sex.
The other is about 6.
Sorry, Chief. It came out pretty loud.
Sure did. So this subject is one of the ones they get a lot of essence from. That's why this is a reaction that's going on. And the intensity, sometimes the volume gets really loud because of the intensity of their desire to hang on to this food source. Love.
Your associates consider romantic novels poison to the consciousness.
Well, it is. Most of the folks, which is primarily women, I've found, some are clients who get into the romantic thing. It's a real hard hurdle for them to jump over. So when they're feeling bummed out, they go and depress themselves, immersing themselves into romance novels. Now, do they really feel better afterwards? Or do they feel wanton, like, I sure wish that Brett was my man? They come out hopeful and wishing. I don't even get it, to tell you the truth. I don't freaking get it. But I don't get people who drink till they're drunk either, There's no use in that. They say, I had a lot of fun, and then they wake up, and man, I had a splitting headache, and it was hangover, I threw up, and it's great fun. But what I find that with romance novels, it fosters depression.
More feeding for density.
Yeah, more feeding for density.
Also, it fosters people to do some really illogical things.
Yeah, they do some really weird things. If you get too deep in it, and other people aren't into it the way you are, you kind of end up being kind of like a weirdo when you come into meeting someone that you like. You gotta approach them kind of weird. Because it's a fantasy created by someone. The romance novels are written by someone. It comes out of someone's head. And I guarantee you, 100% of the time, that head is dense. It's all about food. Very clever way of getting essence. So let me see if we can get into something a little less strenuous for Ms. A. Okay, Ms. A?
Dog eat dog world.
Okay, hold on a second. The dog eat dog, they don't like that one either. So the dog eat dog world, I've heard that one since I was a young, teenager. And it has to do with, you got to go out there and be willing to like do bad things to get ahead. Let's see if that's a affirmative. As far as like how I'm saying it, it's about going out and saying that, it's okay to do bad things to get ahead. Yeah, so, it's well, I've heard folks who said it's business. So when Ms. A was saying it's okay to screw people over, yeah, there are certain groups who are big on just swindling people, screwing people over. Then at the end of the year, they do certain things to wipe the slate clean so they can go back out there and do it again. Because it's just business. But not for the victims of whoever, buying their worthless crap, their broken stuff, things that are too expensive and so on and so forth. But the dog eat dog world, man, you can't handle it, tough. That's what that means. It just means it's a license. If you believe in it, it's a license. You're giving yourself a license to go out and do bad things. But the thing is also the individuals who do things to others, what happens when someone gets the best of them? Oh, they whine like babies. But there's this, religious term, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, do unto you. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. But here's how it even works. They have that saying, they have dog eat dog. Which do I believe in? I believe, you do unto others as you have them do unto you. Now, I'm not Christian or anything, but I think it's not a bad saying. If I'm a decent person towards you, be a decent person towards me. So, okay, Ms. A? All right, sort of.
Yeah, the phrase, it's all fair in love and war seems to come up with dog eat dog world.
Yeah, that's in the same vein. All is fair in love and war is in the same vein. Causes a lot more problems than anything else. If anything, a lot of people end up with really bad, relationships with one another because, two women are interested in the same man. And they were like longtime friends, known each other for 10 years plus or whatever, grew up and so on. And then this guy comes in, and I guess he's, Mr. Good Looking or Mr. Charming or whatever, and all of a sudden they both go after the same guy. And then they start to, just like all of a sudden, what they call it, battle royale amongst two supposedly, the friends. So all is fair in love and war. It's okay if you trip your girlfriend up, or you lie and tell her that the guy wants to meet her, way across town, when in reality he was trusting you to tell her to meet her, for her to meet him in another location. And that's happened. Typically, people have done that. And then she shows up. Well, I don't know where she went. Well, she's gone. Why don't we hang out and have dinner? So literally, that's what that, it's the same as dog eat dog. It's just a license. They're trying to give themselves a license to do whatever they want to do in a very negative way to acquire. So it's like this guy's bait, acquire, the target. But also it's this illusion that this guy's personality is suitable to yours. But there are women who do certain things, people who do certain things, some men do it, but I find that one also more in the feminine arena, also that type of, all is fair in love and war. Guys are kind of, well, I'm interested in her, you're interested in her, well, let's see who's gonna, let's arm wrestle for her, that kind of nonsense. But again, this very covert and very maniacal type of stuff, I have, from just having a lot of women in my family too, have seen that more, and it will damage a relationship for the rest of their time. Sometimes they make up, but usually it's like way, after they've had grandkids or something like that. But again, it's just someone looking for a license to literally do something awful to gain favor with someone that someone else is interested in. And sometimes that person actually met that person before, but said, "Ooh, she's got a nice catch. I'm going to go and I'm going to, get it for myself." Also, there's a whole lot of witchcraft going on when someone does that too. Because there's guys that's like, "I don't know how I ended up with her, but I did it. I don't know how I did it."
Had her special meal, and then I just had.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is food. Yeah, a lot of stuff is food. A lot of, the young guy who would talk into the food of the women he would have lunch with or whatever. You could be like a coworker that, he's interested in. She doesn't realize it. She goes up, goes to the restroom, and he starts speaking into her food. And this kid was telling someone who was a client of mine that that's what he was doing. And then he showed her pictures of him and these, attractive women. And she said, yeah, he was like, close to looking like a bullfrog, but for some reason he had these, attractive young women who were supposed to be his girlfriends. And then, one or two would show up and pick him up and, do work and stuff. So it goes both ways. Guys use this, this nonsense as well. But yeah, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had no idea where that would go. You took it very well. Very far.
Okay.
Yes, that's, so the next one is Just Do It, like the Nike style.
Yeah, some of these things are like commercials. There's one called that someone said, "Just Do It." It's to sell sneakers. That's literally what it's about. But what happens with pop culture, it becomes part of culture. I think maybe the first time I ever heard that was maybe in the 1980s or something like that. So you're looking at 40-some years or whatever, and then becomes part of the lexicon of people. So don't hesitate, just do it is really what it's saying. Don't think, just do it. Of course, I don't think that's a good idea. I always like to think things over before I move forward. So, that's a bad one if someone's like, just do it, but probably the ones who blurt something out like that, someone probably had too much alcohol. And then, let's run down the street naked, man. Yeah, let's just do it, man. Just do it. I don't know, do it,
Or a used car salesman.
or used car
Or,
salesman.
someone trying to sell you something.
Yeah, with some it's like really weird one where certain ethnic neighborhood in New York, you're kind of not really sure if you want to buy this item because I don't think I need this. And guys, be a man, be a man. It's like, what do you mean be a man? It's like, take a chance, be a man, try
Just do it.
Yeah, like just do it. So anyway, with that, that's as much as I got to say about that one. So we can move on to
It's okay. There's a game called Simon, and it teaches people to be very robotic in terms of like red, green, blue, yellow. But sometimes being able to act on cue is very robotic.
Oh, okay. Well, Ms. A is talking about something having to do with being conditioned to just react instead of thinking. And there are games that are out, and I don't know when you said this.
Simon, it's like red, blue, green.
Called Simon or whatever,
Simon
and it's
Says.
probably based after Simon Says. When I was a kid, it was Simon Says. We didn't have all that technology stuff. So Simon says, do this, do that, and if you don't do it fast enough or whatever, you're out. So it's basically training you to just do on command, do things on command. So there's a number of games. Simon's one of them. There's another old one called Whack-A-Mole. And the problem I have with Whack-A-Mole, I have good reflexes, but with Whack-A-Mole, I suck. Because I always look at the mole, and then almost like I had to think about it. It's like I couldn't get my head in the game, So that's another one, and where they go bam, 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 and there are people that I knew who could really do it really, really well. Unfortunately, not always for the brightest bulbs either, Not that anyone can do it is dense. Some people, can be quite bright and so on and so forth. You're really a champion at Whack-A-Mole. But a number of the ones that I knew personally, were very kind of robotic in the way that they live their lives also. Very schedule oriented, very time oriented also. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Oh yeah, right. If you can't beat them, join them is another one, which isn't good. So if you're being invaded by some nefarious force of just awful individuals, just burning, raping, and pillaging, and so on and so forth, and I can't beat them, I might as well join them and become part of the problem. That's what I feel that saying about. You can't beat the density, join the density and become part of the problem. I don't know what else to add to that, really. I think that pretty much speaks for
Can I
Yes,
can
go
I ask
ahead.
a question? Mimosa here.
Okay.
Is the saying "keep your friends close and your enemy closer" the same? Like if you can beat them, join them?
No. When it comes to keeping your enemies closer, it's one that's considered a strategic saying. That, well, one, I don't want to be around anyone that's my enemy anyway.
Right.
But they say if you have to be in an environment, so say a business environment or some kind of environment, and you just end up having to be around those individuals, the people that you know have it in for you, it's better to be able to see what they're doing. That's what that's about. And if you're interacting with them on a regular, some will actually make some kind of friendship or acquaintance with those individuals under the guise of, oh, I'm just being friendly with you. And the person doesn't like them, says, I hate this person, but you know that they hate you, but you're being kind of stealthy by just like, well, so what's up? I can come in. Hey, can I come in your office and hey, how you doing or whatever, so I can sniff around and see what you're up to. So that's what that saying is about, more or less. And it goes across the board in a lot of different ways. There are some women I've known in the past that would keep someone, an eye on someone who they know is pretty underhanded, and they're just keeping an eye on it. It's just really what it's saying. It's keeping an eye on people who may who may not have your best interest in mind. And it just comes out like that. So it's like, why would you, if you have someone that you trust, why would you have the enemy closer? You really wouldn't. But it's just another form of just saying, it's just keeping an eye on the people that you know may try to yank the rug out from under you and knowing where they are. That's what that means. Okay. Yeah, is that good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I know that sometimes with density, they want people, if you can't beat them, join them. They want you to just give up. If
Well, that's what that is with joining. It's like giving up and giving in. Or succumbing to whatever these individuals are up to or what they're into. And it literally, to me, it's just a sign of weakness. Also, if you follow that line of thinking, it's just a sign of weakness. Because in the end, excuse me, those individuals that who's beating you down and maybe beating your family down or something, your family units down, and then you join them, they're not going to trust you too much because you're going to turn, if someone comes along stronger than them, you're going to turn against them. So that's another one of the results from that type of thinking. It does no good for for the person who thinks that is logical. It isn't. Sure.
time heals all wounds.
Yeah, time heals all wounds. No, it really doesn't. The pain may get a little duller, with the illusion, the passing of the illusion of time. But in the end, you never know if how that. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because again, if you have, it has to do with two individuals or more having it in for one another or having a problem with one another. So you think, time heals all wounds. maybe you're feeling less bugged by it, but is this person feeling less bugged by it over time? So I don't even know what that means. It's probably just another term of saying, you recover from whatever the trauma is eventually. But a lot of times it just gets pushed to the back of the closet, and it's still there, and you never know, something might trigger it, and it does happen. You're going along just fine, and you may end up seeing someone who did something really, really awful, but but that was like maybe 15 years ago. And it also is like out of sight, out of mind. You heard that one. So, time heals all wounds, coupled with out of sight, out of mind. So if the person's not there, they don't, after a while, you kind of forget about them. Every so often, maybe the damage that person does flare up, which means time doesn't really heal all wounds. Something might flare up. Or 15 years later, you see that person, or you see someone that looks like them. And then all of that stuff comes rushing back. So I don't really believe in the sense that time heals all wounds. There's other work that to be done to get rid of of that trauma. And what it is depending on what it is, it's a trauma. Other than maybe some minor disappointment, someone owes you some money and they never paid you back or something. There's levels, as to what, how certain things will affect you. Someone never paid you back, you say, oh, that's that freaking, cheating so-and-so, whatever. And you just move on, But if someone did something really awful to you, it's hard for that to heal because that becomes a trauma. And that has, and you have to do work to get rid of that trauma. I have to basically extract whatever it is that's holding on to the trauma. I have to go in to that closet and weave my way into the back and then drag it out. And then they have to be able to look at it, explain it, understand that you were basically being fed on at the time and so on and so forth. You'd have to think very, very differently to actually get rid of something of those traumas. And the way the system is right now, there's no way of actually healing from the trauma. They'll cover it up. Or they give you a bunch of drugs to take, in hopes that you'll forget about it. Or when you're feeling really stressed, pop another pill. Yeah, well, with the sessions, I don't, I'm not going to administer, I don't have any license to administer drugs, which I would never do that anyway. As far as we know that there's another little process that we use, but it's not about healing trauma. It has to do with opening yourself up in a safe environment when we use something having to do with tinctures and things like that, but you don't really do that anymore.
There's a lot of clients here that have experienced trauma, and you help them to overcome them. Personally, myself as well.
Oh yeah, well I've had some who've experienced some major trauma, like 7 years of torture trauma.
And he said he's feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah, well, it's another thing about energy, and then when I talk, we might get into something having to do with some types of healing processes where a person feels exhausted, and then they kind of build up back to a normal energy level, maybe in a couple of days or whatever. And some of the Reiki workers are kind of like guilty of this. When I work and they'll feel really, really tired, I say you're going to feel better when you wake up. They feel better when they wake up because I've cleared the path of energy. And one actually individual who did suffer this torture for 7 years said he feels more powerful, more energetic. And he has no reason to lie. And that's not the first person. I get it from a lot of people who've had less, trauma, that not to the extent of that person. So where was the one with that though?
Well, I can take it to where you're going with it.
Okay.
So the most submitted a really cool Reiki principle, which ended up being a spell.
All right.
It was a spell.
Yeah, if you want to read it, then we'll muscle test and just verify what we're talking about.
Okay.
Do you want to sit up or are you okay?
Everyone's
Everyone's in here okay laying down like this?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. They're pulling straws to figure out.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just for today, excuse me, my phone decided to jump upwards instead, so I have to go back down. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I will do my work with honesty. Just for today, I will be kind to every living thing.
And is that it? Or that,
I think
and that's someone submitted as a Reiki. What do we
Reiki
call it?
principle.
Reiki principle. And at first, when they read it to me, I said, "What is it talking about? Christmas or something?" It's like one day you do all these, supposedly really, really cool things or whatever, or these nice things or so on. Which, okay, that in itself is like, why one day? But when I looked into it, and what I vibed in it was that it was a spell.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
A deal with this.
So it's like a deal with density to, I don't know if you go to a Reiki person because you got pain somewhere, so on and so forth. I'll make this deal with density to alleviate the pain or the discomfort or whatever is going on. There's various ways of doing it. A lot of times when there's pain, like back pain or whatever, it has to do with how the energy is moving up the spine and what's blocking it. So it's like maybe it's dammed up or something by density. Some can be actual attachment. Some can be the residue of attachment. And usually, if you never had a clearing, if there's residue, the attachment is still there also. But it's like something building a dam that's blocking the flow, the free flow of your energy. And it's like a pipe that starts to build up pressure. So what that spell is about, or it's a deal being made by density to alleviate that pain, which means how they alleviate it, they tap into the buildup of energy and they feed it to the density. And then once they've fed enough, then the pain goes away, and over a period of time, it builds up again. And then they do the same thing over again. Opposed to what I do, I remove the blockage. I remove the entity. So a lot of times I end up going back for the same thing. Back for the same thing. Because, I feel better, but how long does it last?
So people misconstrue the pain that the body is telling them. Look, our energy is being blocked up. It's being stopped by attachments, or the residue from attachments is being stopped by density. I'm trying to send you a message, but you are going and taking pharmaceuticals, or you are going to someone who's just depleting our energy, and the body never gets a voice.
Yeah, either way, density wins out. So if you go and you get pharmaceuticals, it opens you up in a certain way. It blocks your what's going on in your body. Therefore, whatever the density is that's in there continues to construct or deteriorate your energy, thus deteriorate your body. And that's what pharmaceuticals do. It just blocks the sensitivity to what's really going on. And individuals I've known who've done it for years, they never look that good. Because they've been living off of pharmaceuticals, but they said, well, I feel better, but then after a certain point, that pharmaceutical doesn't work, then they give them something else. But also, the pharmaceutical they give them tends to actually throw something else off. So that's where, I don't know if it still happens anymore, because I don't hang around with folks who, in my age group or older, that much. But when I was a kid, you go to some folks' place, with older folks, you open that medicine cabinet, and it's a literal drugstore in there. Like 20 different pills. And in a lot of cases, you take all of these, oh yeah, and my doctor just gave me a new one because now I have this issue, and they never tie it to the fact that all these pills have been blocking their healing process. So they don't want to do pharmaceuticals, they go to alternative, and alternative in the matrix are sponsored by the matrix, which means the density. That's the majority.
To talk about the other Matrix movies,
Oh, with the Matrix. Yeah, every so often someone talks about others. Some people will talk about reviewing the other Matrix movies, and I feel it's redundant. And I realized when the first one came out and I watched it, it was just designed to undermine the first one. So anyone who has any inclinations that I will give time to reviewing the second or the third one, forget about it. I will not, because their purpose is to destroy the first one. That gave messages that actually had some meaning. This stuff was some Hollywood dreck, as far as I'm concerned. So if I review it, I'm just going to tear it apart. So you won't get any satisfaction if you like those movies. So anyway. But I'm going to say brought it up because I talked about the Matrix. So anyway. With that said, let's see, 1 second.
There's someone, it's in their chest here, something that they.
Yeah, people like to buy into into movies, which is kind of interesting, and it's okay. I understand it. That's what's been fed ever since, when I was a kid, that's what was fed to me. And there are folks like, oh, you believe in Star Trek? Oh, that's just fantasy. You'd be amazed how many people actually believe that stuff is real, even though they claim, oh, it's fantasy. I think I might have mentioned it before, like Star Trek, when I was a little kid that came out. And there were people walking around calling themselves Trekkies and stuff. I had a family member who was doing that and trying to include me in that. And I said, no, I enjoyed the show, but I don't like some kind of college or something or whatever. But anyway, there's these people who get in it to the point where they learn Klingon, which is like totally useless language. But because they buy into these things as a reality, and really it's just an escape. They're trying to escape. So they're trying to escape into an illusion in this illusion. So then they'll, or they'll talk about all these characters and literally have a heated debate on what episode Kirk did this and who died and so on and so forth. All this type of stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what we
This movie is like sitting on the chest and causing a weight because they literally use it like a comfort blanket. And they feed energy to it by their belief in it. And sometimes people want to relate to movies because they feel like they're so trapped in their own lives.
Yeah. So if anyone thinks I'm going to buy into fantasy, I know the difference between fantasy and reality.
Sorry, can I say, Stacey? I think nowadays it's still got that, but I definitely see exactly what you said there with Harry Potter, and that's a big thing with kids as well, because then they don't realize they're practicing spells and witchcraft and everything like that.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thanks, Lucy. And one of the things I'm not exactly sure why they started pushing witchcraft the way they started pushing it. I would say easily a good 30 years ago. They started bringing actually before, when I was in elementary school, I don't know if anyone, goes back that far, but there was a show called Bewitched. I don't know if anyone remembers any of that, but it's an American show. Yeah. And that was making a witch, this cute little housewife and so on and so forth, and made being a witch wasn't such a big, look, she's hot, And I watched the show, that made me want to be a witch or anything, or a warlock, but I watched it. But they kept, adding shows to the point where there's still a lot of shows now where there's a lot of things with witches and warlocks and werewolves and, vampires and all of this that literally supports a dense scenario, literally. And we've had a lot of interference at times when we're doing sessions with individuals, having to do with individuals who are trying to do witchcraft. Or someone coming in as under the guise of, I want to, a clearing and so on and so forth, but wanting to think they could steal. That's another, again, we talked about that, steal what I have through witchcraft. Or influence me in some way to do something that I have no intention to do with witchcraft. So yeah, that's again, and they target young kids because they're vulnerable.
Density said it's easy to manipulate people because they feel powerless. So we offer them witchcraft so that they can feed into the illusion. We offer them of power.
No, a lot of the stuff, again, is getting more intense. That's one of the reasons I'm bumping up the bumps, because of what's coming. And, if you pay attention to what's going on now, you'll see that there's a shift going on with a lot of things that are going on the planet. And later for what politicians are doing. They're just basically a distraction. But things that are outside of that realm are the things that you should actually pay attention to. So with them and this, it's not really an attack, but an interference. They're trying to interfere with information when they say, she empaths them. And they know she empaths, so they figure that, okay, we'll get her to get all, loud and kicking and so on and so forth, and I wouldn't be able to get the information out. But they don't know they're walking into a trap. They walk in, they're caught, and they're out. It's just like a conga line of idiots. So with that, other than, I think we were talking about, had to do with people believing in illusions, as a reality. So they do all this fantasy stuff, CGI, and a young kid who's just like, oh wow, that's amazing. And, if I can make this thing levitate and this knife levitate and then stab my old man in the throat, they're looking for that type of thing. And I remember when they kind of made advertisers change how they would promote toys for kids. It's back, I believe, in the 90s or late 80s or something, because they had like these very static little trucks or something like that. But how they showed on the commercial, the truck is driving by itself and it's going over things and it's doing all this stuff. And it's not a radio controlled truck. It's just like one I had when I was a kid. It's just rolling around like kid powered. So these parents are buying these trucks things or these toys for these kids, and then they're all disappointed because how come it won't roll on its own? They're just standing there waiting for the truck to start rolling, and it's, oh honey, that's not what this is. It's on the commercial it says. TV shows and movies are the same way. They're selling illusions. They're selling nonsense. They're selling things that really, in this realm, there's a lockdown on it. So as far as like levitation and so on and so forth, yeah, there's certain individuals that get that tap and they do some little tricks and, power tricks and levitate and so on and so forth. But not a whole lot of people can do that stuff.
Nancy said that they never do anything. We do everything, but we trick them.
So, as Ms. A was saying, and one of the things that I definitely had realized with watching certain magicians, and I was like, wow, I said, this guy, he's got some help. And Density says, they do the work.
That's why they call it the illusion of power.
The illusion of power. Because they're behind the scenes. They're behind the scenes pulling the strings. So there have been situations, I know people personally, and I've had certain things would happen, but some things that would happen which just kind of odd when I was younger had to do with certain light beings around wanting me to get out of a certain head. So one of those heads was that I couldn't hang on to a watch for the life of me. I would get them as gifts and they would be gone, or I would lose them. I don't know if I've ever had a watch for a whole year. And the last watch that I had, and I really paid attention that time, was in my very small apartment in Brooklyn. And I had my little nice, Timex, because I wasn't going to spend a lot of money on any more watches to lose. And all of a sudden, I put the watch down that evening, doors locked, secure, the gates, the security gates like they have in the city. So everything's locked up. I get up the next day and the watch is gone. So I'm looking around the table and so on and so forth. I can't find this darn watch. I say, okay, well, I'm going to eventually leave, move out of this apartment. I'll find it behind something or somewhere. Never found it. And it had to do, well, with, I think on one of the coming up forums, maybe next month or whatever, I'm looking into some articles that talk about time, because I have this, I talk about the illusion of time. And there's some interesting articles that have come out over the years having to do with time. I don't know if you remember the title off of that, of the one that was sent to me. Atomic. Not the atomic one, it said time, the something or whatever. I don't know if it's on my phone or yours. But anyway, it talks about how time, in short, is something that is introduced to cause stress.
Torment?
Of course, called torment. It's called the torment of time. There's actually like this sect of people or the segment of, a group of individuals who have this war against time, against clocks and things. And they have these atomic clocks that they put out. And it's in passing, I heard about it, and it seemed like it was a really, really long time ago. But there were people who were blowing them up. And it was never in the news. But this person actually had, found all these articles and so on and so forth, having to do with these occasions where this particular group was blowing up these atomic clocks because they saw them as something nefarious. And I got a feeling it had to do with individuals who had some familiarity with what was going on the other side. And they themselves are probably very dense as well, battling with something else that's dense. So who controls what it was all about. But getting away from that and getting back onto the track, we were going to before.
Do you want to do another mantra?
We were doing that mantra, the mantra of the Reiki mantra.
Go to the next mantra.
Yeah, it's interesting. But again, with the Reiki mantra, the few women that you met them also,
Yes.
they were into witchcraft.
Yes.
Also, like each of these women that I dealt with, they were also into witchcraft. And they wouldn't tell me, but then I said, how long have you been doing witchcraft? They go, oh, well, I was kind of dabbling or whatever, but they were into witchcraft also. So it has to do with, witchcraft and Satanism. You're feeding something. And they feel that they're feeding Baphomet or Satan or something like that, which again, as I tell you, there's no real designated Satan or Baphomet. There's a bunch of density out there putting on Satan's outfits. Or some of these shows who aren't too afraid of messing with Christianity, where there's a party and they invited Jesus, and then all of a sudden the guy looks out there and there's about 20 Jesuses out there on the lawn at the party. He said, which one of them? I said, oh, they're all Jesus. So anyway.
We're all born sinners.
Oh, the other saying, we're all born sinners?
Yeah.
Okay, we went from the other mantra to we're all born sinners. Okay, so the Jesus thing.
The flow you were going.
Okay, so she caught my flow. So that one, wow. Again, I had family members, still do, in the church and whatever.
Oh.
And their pastor would always talk about, you're all born sinners. And I would ask to say, well, so what does that have to do with? And in the end, I don't know if anyone else has another answer for this, or Ms. A, who grew up in it, where because your parents had sex to bring you about, and sex is a sin, therefore you were born of sin. And I was like, okay, so you depend on your flock. And the only way you get flocks is if folks have sex. So it was one of those things that at the end, damned if you do, damned if you don't type of deal. And even over the time when I was dating a girl who was born again Christian, back when I was in college, I never quite understood. She could never really explain it to me, the logic behind it, and why it was even necessary, other than to just do this mantra, God is great and we are shit. So I'm going to find some way to put you down, and you come in behind the way they're talking about it. And you may never catch up. So yes, Ms.
When I was in the Christian cult, they said you're all born sinners, but there's like they give you a grace period because they're like, we know you're a baby, so maybe you're not a sinner. You know, there's a grace period. So you're a sinner, but since you're a baby, and until you're 12 years old, and then when you're 12 years old, then you're held accountable. So now then you're a full-fledged sinner when you're turned 12, and that's why you have some people in cults or Christian churches and stuff trying to kill their children before they're 12 years old. My neighbor lit her kids on fire and locked them in a closet, and then these student, like children, they're like child protective services.
Mm-hmm.
They came and picked up the surviving children who were burned and singed, and I just so happened to be next door whenever this finally went down. I came towards the end of it, and the neighbor had heard screaming, and it was the mother. She was possessed when she burnt her kids, and then at that time it was because they want to kill their kids before they turn 12, and then suddenly she woke up out of it, and then she's like, oh, my children are on fire. It was so crazy, Chief.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about a few things. Also, there's been stories of people who would just lock their kids in the house, and to the point where people didn't even know they had kids. And something would happen, or the house would catch fire or something. And in one case, I think the kid just had enough, and they set their house on fire while the parents were gone. But they were literally chained up in the house. And this was also to keep them away from sin and all that. It's like there's a lot of real extreme insanity around these types of I'm trying to think of the right word.
Christianity.
Yeah, well, it's like a certain religious belief. If someone's a little less stable, the way that they interpret things get even more whack. Just dealing with religious folks when I was growing up alone was a challenge because their way of thinking was very, very limited. They wouldn't think outside of what the church told them. So if I saw something that didn't make logical sense, I would question it. A lot of them wouldn't, but the ones who did, they became atheists, which is another kind of religion as far as I'm concerned. We'll get together as a group and not believe in God.
Would you say Christianity mirrors Yinabian's insanity because he created it? Would you say it?
Well, with the fact that there's a lot of they're fighting this one.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypocritical attitudes and ideas in religion, and even if you read certain passages of the Bible, unfortunately, Ms. A has more adapt to it than myself. I think I might have mentioned I tried a number of times and I just couldn't get that far into it. It was just something was repelling from going further with it, and then certain things that contradicted one another. So it's like the mind of Yin. Very contradictory.
Because there was someone else who submitted a really interesting saying, what is the meaning of the word amen, or AHO? I don't know how to say or I know certain.
Oh, is it the Cherokee?
Yes.
Blessing thing or whatever.
It means it's like an amen,
Mm-hmm.
similar to it, and we wanted to muscle test what the meaning really is.
Okay, yeah, because it's not about bashing one belief system or another, but a lot of things are basically laced with religion throughout, especially throughout the world, period. It's laced with religion. And things are laced with religion because that's another means to just keep people in line and believe in whatever, in a certain doctrine. But was I hope or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And amen. And what I picked up from that, it was literally, you say your prayers, you go, amen. It's literally saying that
the literal meaning is so be it.
Yeah, the literal meaning is so be it. But again, it is like I commit myself to you. do as you will in other words, I commit myself to whoever it is that they're saying the prayer to, and I am your tool. Do with me as you will. Was what it was. I am your tool. Do with me as you will. I'm strong. Do with me as you will. They were trying to mess with it. So anyway, that's literally what it came up. What the definition came out from dealing with the
Amen.
and associates, literally. Yeah, the amen, but also the whole thing, which is supposed to be Cherokee. And so whatever prayers, I don't know what the prayers, I don't know any Cherokee prayers or whatever, but literally it came out to being pretty much the same thing. And it's like committing yourself to some deity, something that you consider to be a deity, when in reality it probably isn't.
I open myself up to the poison of yin and yin.
Oh, well, there's another interpretation when they got pretty raw, say I open myself up to the poison of yin and yin. So when they have religious wars, and then all of a sudden, I have carte blanche to, rape, torture, and whatever, because it's been ordained by who they think is certain something, but actually is this character, yin. We're putting them up to it. So
I am your servant, do as you will.
I'm your servant, do as you will. I'm your tool, do as you please with me. I will follow whatever it is that you want me to do. And I won't question it, basically. That's what the Amen is about. It's like sealing the deal, really. And when I grew up, when I was a kid, up until maybe about 8 or 9, or maybe even 10, my mom used to make us say prayers before eating and prayers before we went to bed. And at the end, it was Amen. So always thanking some other entity for the food that my father worked so hard to make money to buy, and my mom worked so hard to cook and serve us. We gave the credit to someone else. So again, those who had sessions, they know what I'm talking about. Okay. Does anyone have something they want to say?
Yes, I have actually two questions now. So one question is because you always talk about Christianity, and you just said that Christianity is yin and yin's madness, basically. What about the other religion? Are they all the same, or is there one worse than the other?
They really don't want this answer because I'm going to muscle test on it. So when someone say, "Oh, he just has a bug in his ass," or whatever, and you know how it works, and they're crying, "Ow, get out of here." Our religions are under the seal of yin. It's about control. It's yin. It's about keeping people in line. It's yin. It's about telling you not to look beyond what they're teaching you. It's yin. So, from the muscle test, that's the answer.
Okay. And then the second question, when you said that when you were young, you were praying before eating and being grateful and all that. So I used to do similar thing, but I was just being grateful for like people who were like for the farmers, for example, who were like growing the vegetables, and for everyone who was in the process of from like putting the seed in the ground until I had the meal in front of me. And I was just grateful for those people and basically thanking that. Is that okay, or?
I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Okay.
Because those folks are putting the effort.
Yeah.
What I was doing, I was taught to do is give, the credit to others instead of those who actually, did the work. If they're saying, well, the work wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this, this being. But if you know anything about farm work, and that's some hard ass stuff. That's like hell. But if you have your own farm and you have, your own ability to raise your own, it's not hell. It's just literally what you have to do. But if you're in that industry where it's like, they're growing to, ship to stores or whatever, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the conditions that people work under. So what you're doing is not, there's nothing wrong with that. You're actually at least trying to give credit where credit's due. I don't know if that's a religious prayer that you have, or is it something that you contrive, on your own?
Well, it started when I was part of the spiritual community, this whole thing about like being grateful, because that was, spread widely, be grateful for what you have. And then I just started to like give thanks to everyone who was involved in farming or in the process of me getting the food. And well, in the spiritual community, it's that you bless your food and that you put your energy into it and all that. But I never did a blessing, so I took the idea out of the spiritual community, but I changed it to how I felt it was right for me.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that. That literally is what you're, it's. Sorry, hold on a second.
The only thing, like what you taught us, the only thing that it's totally good to give credit where credit's due, but the only thing you taught us was that opening yourself up when you're thankful. That's the only thing. Like if you're too thankful, sometimes you get your energy opens.
Well, that's true in a sense, but again, the fact that it's not giving it away to some cloud being that you've never met. Well, not that you've ever met the people who are collecting the food. You might be actually giving thanks to a machine too. That's that's process, or harvesting the food. But they do have machines that just, I'll give thanks to the combine worker guy, for collecting the food. Again, I like the whole idea of taking something and changing it to suit yourself. Now, people will change things to suit themselves and may not be all that positive. And as they were saying, if you're not aware of what you're opening yourself up to, if you're opening yourself up to through your thanks, then you are opening yourself up to anything that can come in. And the people who are who are picking the fruit or the vegetables or whatever it is you're eating, I guarantee you that they're toxic because they're in this realm and they got a lot of toxic energy. So the whole blessing thing is just a little too close to religion, and it gets kind of muddled, and I think it's like a loaded word, blessing. But basically, containing in literally pushing your energy in to something is how I look at it, and I don't consider it a blessing. I consider it actually an action, an energetic action. So even when I have you do the exercise and you feel that energy between your hands, you can do the same thing and put that energy that you feel instead of the idea that you're blessing your food that has no energy to it. Who's the one giving you the word blessing? Are you blessing the food or are you blessing the person who gave you the word blessing? That's a little tricky, but anyway, it wasn't in there. Okay.
Sorry, there's just a lot of directions that could go into. But you already said it, so, because, some people think that blessing someone is better, but actually containing them would be the most beneficial thing.
Is better. Like I said, blessing, it's like the origin of words. Too often, when I was a kid, some older person would go, "Oh, God bless you, son," stuff like that. And I would always feel a little weird about it. But of course, my mom became something of a radical when it came to religion, when we got around, the age I said, when we stopped having to do these prayers. To where if someone come to proselytize at our house, she'd welcome them in, and then by the time she's finished with them, they didn't know whether they were coming or going. And every so often, they come back, a week later with somebody else to hear what she had to say about religion, which I guarantee wasn't pro. But it had to do with logical thinking. So when, a lot of these New Age things, they do adopt terminology, but they don't really look into the origins of the words that they're using. It sounds good. You don't know who's behind certain these particular movements either, but they will give you something. There's some things in the Bible, do unto others, do unto, to you, so on and so forth. There's something generally in all of these that will make some sense. But if you look at the holistic thing, you'll find that there's a whole lot of information there that doesn't jive with one another. And also, if it has to do with committing yourself to something outside of yourself, or just an entity, I should say, outside of yourself. Okay, all right. All right, thanks, Mimosa. That was a good question. That's all your other questions. So,
should we go to the to one mantra by the end? We have 7 minutes.
Okay, what was the other mantra?
The one that is 4 letters.
Oh, this was a Shiva thing?
Yes, the Shiva mantra.
The Shiva mantra.
Should I go to that or should I go to broken?
We can go to Shiva mantra. And they don't like that either. Of course, they don't like anything we're doing here.
There's a mantra that is supposedly you're not supposed to tell anybody these 4 letters, or it will lose power. And you're not supposed to say it out loud. You're only supposed to think it in your head.
So what's supposed to happen if you say it out loud?
You don't know.
Oh.
Can I share because I submitted that one?
Okay.
Yeah. So I was part of the Tantra school in Chiang Mai, and they did a lot of meditation and a lot of work with Shiva and Shakti, and then they had this mantra, and there was a whole initiation around it. So for 4 classes, we would learn everything about the mantra and how to meditate on it. And there were also certain steps that you had to do before you start meditating. And then you were supposed to say the mantra in your head and never out loud, because if you would say it out loud, it would lose the power that you would get from it. Because with the mantra, you would connect to the spirits. And so when they gave us the mantra, it was like the teacher had it written on a paper, and then the teacher said it out loud one time, and then we had to repeat it to make sure that we're saying it correctly. And from that moment on, we were not supposed to say it out loud just in our head. And if we would say it out loud, it would have less power, and it would be less helpful for us in our journey with connecting with the spirits and all that. And there are a lot of mantras that are like that you're not supposed to say out loud, that you will basically get from your teachers.
Yeah, like secret mantras. Now, was
Right.
this one of the things where you started to sense more things after this? I don't know. You had some other experiences where you started to sense other things on the other side or whatever, or just
Well, Well, with this mantra, if you would say it, then you would hear like a very high-pitched tone, and then you would have to focus on that high-pitched tone and basically follow within this tone. You would always have to focus on the highest tone, and then you would just go deeper into your meditation and connect more with Shiva, and with that you would get like help and also like power and all that from those spirits or those
how
gods.
powerful did you feel after doing that?
Pardon?
How powerful did you feel after doing it?
Well, not really powerful. At the beginning, I was like excited because I would hear the high pitched tone, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing it right." But I did not really do it that often because like meditation was not my thing anyway, so I didn't follow up with that. But I did not feel any difference other than excitement that I was doing it right at that point.
Okay. So, I got a feeling if you had done it more regularly, you might have felt some kind of euphoric thing going on. Which again, when I talk about euphoria, that means opening your energy up and getting drained. They squirmed because they know what I'm going to say about it. There are a number of individuals that I met here in Shanghai who have certain teachers here and certain teachers there. One guy came in, it was another one who was trying to steal from me, but he came in, and he had this big, you see a lot of ties, wearing these big medallion type things, whatever, a locket thing, whatever. And he had one of these, and I said, okay, you have to take all your jewelry off to, for the session. He said, no, my teacher gave me this, and Ms. A, she tapped into it, and I said, you're going, I said, well, there's things in jewelry, and the thing started to growl at the fact that I was targeting him taking it off. So what this item did, there's a lot of these schools, and they do these types of things. We have high-pitched tones on the regular basis when we're working, and they're not all good. I guarantee you that for a fact. Usually it has to do with something dense coming through, and I have to go and find it. And Ms. A's experienced it. There's times that we have the air pressure change in the room as well. So what this guy's doing, secretly giving your energy to whatever the deity is that he is honoring. So is it, I don't know, is it Shiva? And they say, no, it isn't. Something quite dense. So they have a lot of folks go through these processes, and and it's like, I'm always leery of these 4-week or weekend courses and so on and so forth, because it's primarily about bringing the food in and feeding the density. So he gets something from feeding the density. Now, maybe his school is more prosperous or something like that, because he brings in enough food for the density that supports him. And usually it's not just one thing that he's feeding a group. And as he's feeding a group, he's feeding a group. So they're talking about Shiva, but it might be the committee of Shiva. Yes.
Is it 4 different groups?
That's the same guy, 4 different groups?
No, this particular mantra, because there's 4 letters. H,
So
A,
I don't know, 4 different groups? Like there's 4 different, I guess, groups or whatever. I know that there's sounds like, the sound of the A, H-A, whatever it is. But also, if you take it to Buddhism, there's the sound Om. That means something also. That opens you up to something else as well. So, that's probably, that's muscle test. They say that generally is something dense as well. So everything that has to do with spirituality within the matrix has to do with feeding the system. And that's, anyway, the alarm went off. But again, we're not going to just end it right cold, but that's what I'm going to say.
when you can, there's, we've had a client that had rainbow colored tuning forks. Each color would feed a different hierarchy level of density. And as you go up the color spectrum.
You're going to read it real quick, and then I'm going to let you take a break, because this is like
you go to density that is more and more intense as you go up the ladder. So finally, the highest level of density in the hierarchy would get the most amount of food.
Okay, so we're going to end with Ms. A talking this, because there's just too much of a problem with this. So it has to do with, again, pitch. So tones. And individuals will, because people are looking like little children to be taught something, but they're not discerning as to who's teaching, and they don't even know how to tell whether the people that they're learning from are legitimate or not, or have their best interests in mind or not. So if you're experiencing something you've never experienced before, or certain individuals having euphoric feeling, oh, euphoric feels really, really good, but don't really, they say, well, that means that, you're doing well, you're expanding, you're growing, whatever. But that doesn't mean that. It just means that you're feeding, and you've opened up really, really wide, and you're feeding something. And something that doesn't have your best interest in mind. It's just basically taking. And then it waits for you to charge up again, you come back, same thing happens over and over again. The same person with the locket, we had him take it off and found out that his teacher that he so admired was feeding off of him. So he fed through the lockets, he gave them to a number of students, and each student, through their belief in him, opening themselves up to him, he had access to their energy. And then he in turn passed it on to his masters, who were on the other side, a group of other deities. So again, with the tonal thing, there's a lot of things having to do with tone in this realm, even having to do with governments, military, playing with tones and things like that. This guy Robert Monroe had this institute, having to do with out-of-body travel. He was experimenting with tone, and then the military got very, very interested in him, and he started doing experiments for the military. So how tone can actually affect a person, or if you even see something just basic like an experiment in a lab having to do with mice or roaches, where they'll turn a tone on up, and the mice are fine. They turn it up to another octave or so, whatever, and then next thing you know, they're just spazzing out, or the roaches are running around, crazy. So what these guys are doing, they're just very, very much how dense way or method of feeding off of you. So again, it's good that you're a bit of a radical. You say, the meditation thing's not for me. Let me move on to something else. So good for you that you did do that. But anyway, one thing else, and we're going to sign off. And what do you got to say, Jose?
Oh, I'm good. You told me to not try to do the tuning fork things because it's really intense. They open up different. They open up your.
Well, they open up channels, yeah.
Yeah, they open channels, and then the most major channel is for the density that feels at the top of the hierarchy. They come in for the major drain.
Yeah,
major
we talked
euphoria.
about that. We talked about it's like the pyramid situation there as well on the other side. There are the grunts, and then there are those on the top. So Yin was a very tippy top, but we know what happened to him. But there are those who are beneath that, who, in other words, certain things, certain tones, or certain amounts of essence that they gather from people, it goes up the ladder, and those at the top get the lion's share. And that's what's happening on the other realms all the time. And that's one of the things that religions and other institutions, and all institutions, I should say, are connected to. So it's not just religion that I'm talking about. It's not just pointing out religion. I'm talking about everything. That's an institution in this realm, are connected to that other side.
And they mirror that system. Right?
Yeah, they mirror the system. I could never figure out how a person started a corporation when I was a kid. How does one start a corporation? These big, massive corporations. How do you get there? But it has to do with connections to those things on the other side. But anyway, with that said, I think we covered pretty much most everything. We had one thing left, but we covered pretty much everything. I hope
For
it was
submitting your
informative.
questions and your mantras and things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for your participation again, showing up. Wow.
Intense.
Yeah, this one was pretty busy again.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you everyone for showing up and participation, sending in questions and so on. And we will see you later.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Uh,